first ever gig here in this area of Liverpool called Toxteth. Has anyone heard of Toxteth before? Quite a few people nodding their heads, okay. Toxteth, of course, became world famous in the 1980s, didn't it? I'll tell us why in a moment, okay. Let's not forget, by the way, the Beatles weren't the only band from Liverpool. In 1960, a man from this area called Bill Harry, he set up a magazine, and the magazine was called the Merseyside magazine. And the Merseyside magazine popularised bands from Liverpool. Bands like the Beatles, the Searchers, Jerry and the Pacemakers, Roy Storm and the Hurricanes, Billy J. Crane, the Dakotas, the Swinging Blue Jeans, the Remo 4, the Big Three, the Merseyside, the Live Events, Cilla Black. They all came through the Merseybeat movement, and the Merseybeat changed the world. Did you write all them down? The Merseybeat changed the world because the Merseybeat laid the foundations for the British invasion period of pop, where British bands, led by the Merseybeat, led by the Beatles, went over and dominated the US pop charts, and it changed the world forever. Nothing was ever the same after the British invasion. The world changed forever in the 60s, didn't it? But where did it all start to change? At the banks of the River Mersey. Transatlantic trade, the skiffle boom, the Merseybeat. We all owe so much to that little river in Liverpool, don't we? But I asked you guys a moment ago, has anyone heard of Toxteth before? And a lot of people started nodding their heads. Because of course in the 1980s, Toxteth became world famous for being home to the real thing. You said something with an R. It was the real thing, wasn't it? You to me are everything, the sweetest song that I would sing. Baby, thank you. It wasn't the real thing, was it? It was Robbie Fowler. Robbie Fowler was from Toxteth, Liverpool FC legend. Any Liverpool FC fans on? Up the Reds, here we are. Good. Ringo, if something began with an R, the riots, 1981. Riots began on this road in Liverpool, the Toxteth riots. Those riots were then blamed for inciting riots throughout the rest of the country. Liverpool throughout the 80s, what were we known for? It's a rhetorical question, don't answer it. We were known for being in mass industrial decline, mass unemployment, 80% youth unemployment. We were known for football hooliganism, and we were known for the Toxteth riots. By 1989, some dreadful national newspaper headlines tarnished this city's reputation, and we still fight against it to this day. I'm sure many of us have heard of that before. But with that in mind, Liverpool was once one of the wealthiest cities on earth, home of the Merseybeat, which changed the world. Forever known, especially in this country, for all the wrong reasons. So with that in mind, as I say, I like to make it very clear what my job is on board the bus. Probably wondering what it is. I wonder what it is myself. My job is not selling the Beatles to us. I think we all know how good the Beatles are, don't we? Imagine if my job was getting up on this bus and saying, hey, the Beatles were really good, weren't they? What an easy job that would be. We all know how good they are. My job is showing you all how the Beatles connect to Liverpool and showing you all how beautiful a city this is. Can I try and do that for us all? Brilliant. Well, by Thomas Shelby lived. I have to point out the film set as we pass it. It's a good rule to have, isn't it? It was the film set of Peaky Blinders, the first 4 seasons. But it's not the street that we're looking for here on the Welsh Streets. The street we're actually looking for is the next one along on the left. It's Imagine Street that we're looking for, because this was the birthplace of Ringo Starr. Okay? As we look down Imagine Street, have a little look just here. Can we see where the yellow car is parked just there? That's where Ringo was born. Not in the yellow car. In the house next door on the left. Number 9 Imagine Street. And I don't wish to downplay this, right, but he was only born there. He had no memories in that house. He was born at home, then almost immediately taken straight off to the hospital. And then when he was 5 years of age, his mother Elsie decided she wanted to downsize. She wanted a smaller house, so she moved. And she did decide to take Ringo with her, which was kind. Where did she move to? I'll be honest, we try and keep it secret. You'd never guess. Low key, isn't it? Yeah, we keep it. Have a little look down the street. We're looking at Admiral Grove here. Halfway down the street on the right hand side is the White House with the pink pipe and the pink windows. So Elsie moves to the other side of the road. That has to be the handiest thing in the world for a tour, doesn't it? Get 2 Ringo Starr houses in 1 minute. Yeah. The White House, pink pipe, pink windows. So that is where Ringo was brought up. He was also brought up at the pub. This is perfect. I'm just going to relax. Because his mother Elsie was a performer. And I'm not joking about this. His mother Elsie would sing and play on the piano in the front room of the entrance pub. Her favourite songs to sing in this pub were wartime songs. Oh, yes. Like Doris Day, Sentimental Journey. Oh, you've got Have a little look at the front window. Oh, yeah. When Ringo released an album of his own, it was called Sentimental Journey. It was just a big picture of the Empress pub on the front cover. And the album itself was just songs his mother used to sing in this pub. I think that's really cute, that, isn't it? John Culshaw came on about 16 months ago. He gave the pub a makeover. He's done a fantastic job of it. Ringo has acknowledged the artwork. Hopefully he comes back and visits it himself in the near future. But we've seen two Ringo Starr houses, a pub, a gigantic piece of art. Coming up on the left-hand side is Ringo's old primary school. So with all these things of significance to Ringo on one little road, there's no surprise as to why we call this road Ringoland. This is Ringoland. This is the town where he was born. There's a song in that, isn't it? And I don't know if you guys got onto this, but you got on the bus that's got rainbows and stars all over. It's all multicoloured. I'm going to make sure it gets cheesy. We're going to drive through Ringoland singing Yellow Submarine. Does that sound like a good idea?
Yeah.
I thought it would too, guys. Okay. Before I press play on Yellow Submarine, you all sing along. You have to sing at the top of your lungs. It's the rules. Before I do, can I just ask the question? Does anyone actually have Ringo as their favourite Beatles? Show your hands if Ringo's your favourite. 3. Guys, this is not Penny Lane. Penny Lane's coming up in a moment's time on our left. We're actually going to drive the full length of Penny Lane on the bus, but we're going to stop here first to get pictures taken with the Penny Lane street signs. Does that sound like a good idea? Yeah. The most important thing to remember is that the cars will fly around the corner. Do not stand in the middle of the road getting your photos taken. I will try and look out for the cars, but please take some responsibility. Stay on the pavement. Is that right? Follow me to the corner at Penny Lane.
English side. Yeah, we were on the northern Irish.
Here's what they did instead: is they painted Penny Lane onto the walls of Penny Lane to prevent the theft of the street signs. So above this sign on the left-hand side, top of the bricks, you can see what is white residue where the painted-on Penny Lane street sign used to be. Okay. We only have one painted-on Penny Lane street sign that remains on Penny Lane itself. It's just a little bit further up where we see the silver car parked. Get ready, get your phones out, take a picture of it if you wish.
Oh boy.
You will see our last remaining painted on Penny Lane street sign. It's now protected with a layer of plastic on the front of it.
No.
However, everything from the song to the top end of Penny Lane, the bank, the shelter, the barber shop. So as we make our way, there it is. As we make our way along the half-mile length of Penny Lane, all I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down for a moment and I'm going to play a little bit of music. Does that sound like a good idea? Brilliant. Any song requests from anyone? I was going to play ABBA. What was I thinking? Penny Lane, coming right up. This is Penny Lane, just so you know. I mean, this is actually Penny Lane, but this is Penny Lane. Where am I going with this, you're wondering? Beyond the traffic lights is an area of Liverpool called Smithdown Place. Smithdown Place is in my ears and in my eyes. Doesn't sound the same. But this is what the song's all about. In front of us we have our John Lennon Imagine Peace statue, there it is. And then beyond the statue you can see a building called the Sgt. Pepper Bistro. That was the shelter in the middle of the roundabout. And that's what the song's all about. In 1947, the shelter in the middle of the roundabout became a bus terminus, okay? That bus terminus was known as the Penny Lane bus terminus. Every bus that headed to it had Penny Lane written across the front of it. This is the Penny Lane area of Liverpool. On the right is the shelter in the middle of the roundabout. Behind the shelter are the bus stops. They are the most important part of the song, in my opinion. On the left-hand side, we have the Penny Lane surgery coming into view. This used to be the bank of Penny Lane, where the banker never wore his mac in the pouring rain. Very strange. And what are we all looking for? It's the barber shop, isn't it? Coming up on your left-hand side is arguably one of the most famous and most photographed barbershops in the world, Tony Slavin's barbershop, the famous, world-famous barbershop of Penny Lane. But it's not actually on Penny Lane, it's on Smithdown Place. And what you guys should all know and understand at this point is that the whole song Penny Lane was about a bus terminus on Smithdown Place. I want to remind you all you paid good money to find out this information. And just for our friend who shouted on Newcastle Road earlier, it's coming up on the right hand side. I normally wouldn't point it out because it's difficult to point it out, but if we look further down where the black car is, partly down the left, John Lennon lived in number 9 Newcastle Road for 4 years of his life. Okay? That's not the main John Lennon house that we take. Small cul-de-sac that gave birth to one of the greatest musicians, guitarists and songwriters in history. But there's no blue plaque outside this house. There's no flashing lights. There's nothing to symbolise that George Harrison ever even stepped foot on this street. The house is empty at the moment, it's unoccupied, but please, show respect to the residents. Don't sit in the garden furniture that's in the... That's quite cool to point out. Get pictures off the house, with the house no one lives here at the moment, okay? But get pictures of the street sign as well, the bottom end, Arnold Grove. Underneath Arnold Grove it says unadopted, that means private street, okay? Not adopted by our local council. So just bear that in mind, they're very kind to allow us to come here every day. Day in this city, right? But 2 teenagers met each other on this little road in Liverpool in a church hall, and if those 2 lads didn't meet each other on that day, the world would not be the same. The world changed. It was from the church halls of this city. Yeah, that's the magic and beauty of the entire story, isn't it? Get your phones and cameras ready. It's over on the right hand side. There is an orange brick building. It's coming into view. It's set just behind the houses. This is the birthplace of the Beatles. It's a pilgrimage site for music fans from all around the world. That is where John Lennon first met Paul McCartney on the 6th of July 1957. 66 years ago this month, by the way. We've just celebrated its birthday, of course. But 2 teenagers came face to face down that little pathway, and if they didn't meet, we wouldn't be sat on this bus today. It changed the world. We never let people off here, just so you know. The reason why is because if we did, they'd run straight into this graveyard on our left. They'd start searching for the gravestone. Bob Paisley, Liverpool FC's most successful ever manager, finds his rest in peace. Rest in peace, Bob. Also the Alan Rigby gravestone. It's this final block of graves, 3 rows back, 4 graves across. You might notice that the gravestone in front of Alan Rigby's has been snapped in half. Let that serve as a reminder as to why we don't let people trample all over a graveyard on this tour. It's actually a major talking point in the city of Liverpool. Without us letting people off here, there'll still be over 100,000 people who will trample all over a gravestone. If you want to come back and do it respectfully, that's up to you, okay? But Paul McCartney said he didn't write Alan Rigby about the lady who's buried in that grave. But he did say maybe the gravestone was in his subconscious memory, because him and John used to hang around this area together once they became friends. It's creepy, spooky.
I love the way he does how speak. Je pense que ça c'est notre...
Okay, lovely people on the Magic Store. If you want to start heading back to the bus, if you've got your photos, that'd be great. Inside the John Lennon exhibition, you'll find the piano that John Lennon composed and recorded Imagine on. The Imagine piano is in that building that's in the background of all your photos. It's worthwhile popping back for that reason alone. All the money that they make in there goes back into training up young adults with disabilities. It's a great place, it really is. But I don't wish to ruin your photos with this bit of information, but the gates didn't mean anything to John Lennon. That's not because they are replica gates. The gates never meant anything to John, no matter what form they have ever taken. The gates didn't mean a thing to John Lennon, because John Lennon was a trespasser. Trespassers don't tend to walk through gates, do they?
No.
John Lennon would climb over the back wall of Strawberry Field, because Strawberry Field in essence backed onto John Lennon's house. Let that tell you everything you need to know about Strawberry Field. People have analysed it. Was John climbing in looking at the girls? Did he feel abandoned? People have debated this for years, but in essence, John Lennon was singing Strawberry Field Forever about a field at the back of his house. I think he was feeling homesick. He wrote a song about home at a time when he couldn't possibly come back and visit. Let that tell you everything you need to know about the song. But we do think of John, don't we, like a universal figure, someone who transcends any city or country. Maybe it's because of Imagine that we think that, Imagine there's no countries, but John Lennon spent most of his entire life in number 251 Menlove Avenue, a named house called Mendips, where he lived with his Aunt Mimi and his Uncle George. Even though John Lennon spent most of his entire life inside the house that we're about to see, the house isn't actually known for its musical significance, because John Lennon was banned from playing the guitar at home. His Aunt Mimi was only bothered about his education. She didn't care for his music. In fact, any time that she caught John Lennon playing the guitar, Mimi would catch him and she'd say, "John, the guitar's all well and good, but you're never going to make a living out of it." I think that's one of the greatest quotes in history. How wrong could someone be? Beatlemania struck in 1964, and day and night, Beatle fans descended upon this road in Liverpool. They started camping outside John Lennon's house, and Mimi became a prisoner inside her own home. In 1965, she was forced out of Mendips. The house went into private ownership, and everyone who lived there afterwards had the exact same problems of Beatle fans day and night outside the house. And that's why eventually Yoko Ono bought the house, and she gave it to the National Trust. The National Trust restored it back perfectly to its original condition, and these days it costs £35 to go inside the house. Okay, you can never make a living out of it, John. Look on your left hand side, here it is in all of its glory. This is Mendips. This is John Lennon's childhood home. We're not allowed to let anyone off here, by the way. The National Trust won't allow us to, but we will stop for long enough for you guys to get photos from the window. The top left-hand window of the house was John Lennon's bedroom. He wrote his first song in that bedroom, a song called Hello Little Girl. He would also write Please Please Me in that bedroom, a song that started it all in this country. But as I say, when it comes to musical significance, pictures of the house with the house, but as I say, from the moment we leave the front of this property, we are living a day in the life of Paul McCartney. I do think that that's quite a big deal in terms of if you just have that chorus rattling around your head, that bass rattling around your head as you make your way back up to the bus stop. It does change how you perceive the song, But if you have any questions for me at all, feel free to ask, okay? Just so you guys are also aware, we're actually running probably about 15 minutes late on this tour. So has anyone got like an immediate booking dot on? No?
Just the pub.
15 minutes.
Just the pub.
Get your pictures, I wish. Get your pictures and let back up.
Is Mike still alive?
Yeah, he's doing well.
His younger brother? 20, right? 20. Probably. It's this. It's like these four-winded, these, three-winded.
I wasn't there.
Here we are, Penny Lane. There we go, the shelter in the middle of the roundhouse. On the left, Penny Lane itself. I'm going to play us a beautiful song called In My Life. And some of you guys might know this, some of you might not, but John Lennon originally wrote the song In My Life all about the city of Liverpool. So when John Lennon is singing about places he remembered, in the original lyrics he was really specific about where he remembered. He mentioned the Picton Clock Tower, he mentioned the docks of Liverpool, he even mentioned Penny Lane in the original lyrics of In My Life. And then when John Lennon took the lyrics into the studio and sat down to record the song, he changed all the words. He turned it into a love song, and what a great job he did of it. But years later, a reporter got their hands on him and said, "John, why did you change all the original lyrics of In My Life? Originally it was all about Liverpool, why did you turn it into a love song?" John Lennon's answer was, well, the original lyrics of In My Life were like a boring bus trip around the city of Liverpool. Why are you laughing at that, guys? He didn't have a big piece of cloth over it anyway. He just took pictures with it. On the left-hand side, the Greek Orthodox Church. On the right-hand side, this orange brick building is Nightingale House, the world's first designated school of nursing, opened by Florence Nightingale herself. Hence why we have a memorial just here on this corner to Florence Nightingale. She wasn't from Liverpool, but that's Nightingale House. It was the world's first designated school of nursing. On Rosebery Street, where the Quarrymen had their first gig, right? That's home to the Northwest's oldest mosque as well. Like, this is a real multicultural area. There's so many things in which we can point out. We're about to go into Georgian Quarter. Most of the buildings we're about to see are Grade 2 listed. We've already driven along this road as well, and that's just a few more things to squeeze in. I couldn't even get them in first time round. You know, there's so much to see, there's so much to do in this city that realistically, even on a tour that goes 2.5 hours, well, 2 hours 20 minutes, so it should come in at that, we still can't squeeze everything in. You'd have to literally spend the entire day searching around and you'd still find things, you know. The reason why is because Liverpool's such a great and beautiful city, isn't it? Yeah. Okay guys, you're going to clap and cheer. I'm going to say, is Liverpool a beautiful city? You're going to make some noise. Is that, you did get the answer right, but we need to be louder with it. Is Liverpool a beautiful city? That's the answer, right? It's a beautiful city. Make sure you come back, visitors. Okay, promise me that you will. But come back, visitors, keep in touch and all that type of stuff. If you ever need any when you're back in Liverpool, give me a shout and I'll help you out. But we are back in the Georgian Quarter of Liverpool. I said to you just then, most of the buildings here are Grade 2 listed. Liverpool has more Grade 2 listed buildings than any other city in the UK outside of London. We are second only to our nation's capital for the quality of our architecture, and it really shows in an area like this. But once we get down to the bottom end of this road, you are about to see one of our nation's finest buildings. I'm biased, I'd say it's one of the world's finest buildings, but I'm trying to keep a lid on my biasness at this point, aren't I? We are about to see the Liverpool Cathedral. We know it better as the Anglican or the Protestant cathedral in this city, and it is the largest cathedral in the United Kingdom by volume. It is the 5th largest Gothic cathedral of any denomination in the whole of Europe. It's the longest cathedral in the world with the largest, heaviest and highest bill of bells in the world, the largest Gothic arch in the world. Some of the world's largest individual pieces of stained glass are inside its Gothic arch. It's home to our nation's largest Willis organ, some of the world's largest individual pipes. It's big, it's big. Giles Gilbert Scott was the architect behind it, and he was 22 when he designed that building. Doesn't that make you feel ashamed? What were you up to at 22? I know what I was up to. I was doing cathedrals, not that much. It wasn't controversial that he was 22. The controversy came when the city found out that he was a Catholic architect. That's our Protestant cathedral. It was a scandal. So eventually they found out that the Catholic cathedral at the other end of the street in front of us was designed by Frederick Gibbard. It came out that he was a Protestant. A Protestant built our Catholic cathedral and a Catholic built the Protestant cathedral. But by chance they're only divided by this one street. And this street is called Hope Street. Take that one away with you. 2 cathedrals divided by half a mile of hope. It's one of the most unique streets in the world, it really is. And make sure you spend time on Hope Street. That's where you'll find the pub for carpool karaoke for the people who asked. But on the right hand side, this is Paul McCartney and George Harrison's old high school, the old Liverpool Institute for Boys. On the right hand side though, that used to be a separate building, and it was the old Liverpool Art College. It's where John Lennon went to college. It's there where he met his first wife Cynthia. And it's where he met his best friend and original bass player of the Beatles, Stuart Sutcliffe. So John, Paul and George were all educated in that building, alright. Years later, both of the buildings shut down, and Paul McCartney heard about it, and he was quite upset. So he decided to buy both the buildings. It must have come into a little bit of money or something, I don't know, but he bought both of the buildings, they renovated them, and then Paul McCartney, alongside Mark Featherstone Whitty, they opened up and established LIPA, Liverpool Institute of Performing Arts. That's Paul McCartney's own university, and every single year Paul McCartney comes back to LIPA to present the graduation ceremonies to his own students in his own city, in his own university. He's done a lot for us, hasn't he? He really has. But yeah, that's Paul McCartney's university that we passed a moment ago. You guys are all pointing this out now, aren't you? I'm going to have to interrupt all my LIPA story. I had another 20 minutes to talk about it, but you're distracted all of a sudden. That's Chinatown that you're looking at just there. Chinatown, just so you know, is made up of about 5 Chinese restaurants and about 4 speed bumps. It's not the biggest of Chinatowns. We know that. But that is the 2nd largest Chinese arch in the world outside of China, just so you know. The largest, I believe, is in Montreal, Canada, just so we know for our friends from Canada on board. But yeah, I've not measured it, I don't know the size of it, but yeah, it's a big Chinese arch, isn't it? Overcompensating for a little Chinatown, that's what it's there for. But Liverpool has the oldest Chinese community in the whole of Europe, just so you know. We also have one of the oldest African communities in the whole of Europe here as well. We have a growing South American population here in Liverpool, but really at our core, we are a very Celtic city, aren't we, the people of Liverpool? Yeah. We're made up of a load of Welsh and Scottish Protestant migrants who came here during the Industrial Revolution. Then in 1845, something changed in Liverpool. Okay, the dynamics of our city completely shifted, and that's when the Great Famine took place in Ireland. You know, took place, and all of a sudden we had close to 1 million Irish people pass through the port of our city, and they left an almighty stamp on Liverpool. John, Paul, George, and Ringo, for example, all Irish ancestry. Myself, I'm a quarter Irish. Dennis is also of Irish ancestry, just so you know. But our other friends from Liverpool, Irish ancestry, yeah, it's standard, isn't it? Liverpool, that's what makes us a very interesting culture of people, by the way. The people of Liverpool quite often don't actually feel English. We feel more Celtic, we feel more European, we feel more international when we do English. It makes us a very interesting culture, doesn't it? For that reason alone. But I think it's important that you understand a little bit about the people of Liverpool. We are a very interesting bunch, we are, to say the least. But in a few moments' time, just so you know, the tour is going to come to its end. And the tour ends at the most famous club in the world, the Cavern Club. So that's going to happen in... Two things, I know, it's unbelievable. Guys, you've done two things wrong just then. Did you not get onto this? You fell asleep, haven't you now? I'm disappointed in you all, okay? I'm going to repeat myself, see where you went wrong. I put in the dramatic pause as well. Nothing. Okay, yeah, that's where we're going with this. Guys, in a few moments' time, this tour comes to its end. It's like pantomime, this. But the tour ends in the pub! Yay! The most famous club in the world, the Cavern Club! And you guys are getting in for free because you're with us! Yay! You cheered at the free bit, didn't you? You know what I was saying? Did you all get your boarding passes? They look like this. Yeah? Okay, if you didn't, have a chat to me in Dennis, then we'll sort it out. But these are your boarding passes. And on the back of them, 3 little circles, okay? Those circles say you get free admission into the Cavern Club. It's normally £5 each to get in at any time of day these days. You're getting in for free because you're with us. It's like that, isn't it? You'll get discounts in the Cavern's restaurant if you show this in the restaurant, if you eat your food there. And you'll also, if you show this little boarding pass at the bar of the Cavern, you'll get a free souvenir. Courtesy of the magical messages on. It's a postcard. Don't get your hopes up too high, okay? But it is a collectible postcard, so make sure you get it, okay? I believe it's a picture of the bus stop at 4th and Road. It's not that exciting. It's not. Collectible postcard, make sure you get it. Has anyone been in the Cavern yet? Show of hands if you've been in the Cavern. Quite a lot of people, but actually it seems like most of us have not been to the Cavern Club yet. It's exciting, cool. The Cavern Club is known as the most famous club in the world, and that's an almighty claim, a massive title to live up to, isn't it? It opened as a jazz venue, 1957. First, they actually banned rock and roll from the Cavern. It wasn't even allowed to be played. Unfortunately, the Cavern was sold in 1960 to a man called Ray McFall. And Ray McFall is a name that we might never have heard of before, but he embraced rock and roll, and he brought it into the city centre of Liverpool. And the Cavern Club became the central hub of the Merseyside movement. You know, Cilla Black was the cloakroom girl on the door. Jerry and the Pacemakers and the Searchers, they all played the Cavern Club, of course they did. And they ended up in 1961 opening up the Cavern Club at lunchtime. They wanted their own resident rock and roll band to play at lunchtime between 12 and 1 o'clock. People would leave the office blocks and go and watch the bands at the Cavern at lunchtime, sag off school and go to the Cavern, you know. But the band that they employed were fresh out of Hamburg, and they went on to play 292 times over a period of time which spanned less than 2.5 years. And that band were called the Beatles. Have I mentioned the Beatles on this tour? Once or twice? No, missed them out. What was I thinking? They played the Cavern there 300 times. It was there where Brian Epstein discovered them as well. And then eventually the Beatles played the Ed Sullivan Show. And once they played the Ed Sullivan Show, everybody wanted to visit that basement cellar where the Beatles were discovered. I'm talking Chuck Berry, Stevie Wonder, Elton John, Eric Clapton, the Rolling Stones, the Kinks, the Who, Queen. They all played the Cavern Club in the years that followed. And many, many more, just saying, just a few off the top of my head. The problem with the Cavern Club was it was not a safe venue. In fact, it wasn't even a music venue. It was a basement cellar. It had one way in, one way out, okay? It had no ventilation, it had no working toilets, And quite often when they had a famous musician playing on stage, they would cram hundreds of people inside the cavern, and the sweat would visibly drip down the walls below all the electricity in the venue. That happened on the last occasion that the Beatles played the Cavern. They were left in pitch black darkness. It was not a safe venue. So in 1966, with the popularity of the Cavern increasing and massive artists wanted to play there, they expanded the Cavern. It became 3 times the size. They put in fire exits. They put in ventilation. They put in a functioning bar in the Cavern, and they put toilets in the Cavern Club as well. The Cavern used to smell of smoke, stale fruit and toilet disinfectants, just so you know. But in 1966, with all these renovations, the Cavern Club lost its iconic smell, and people were disappointed by that. There's no pleasing some people, is there? From 1966 onwards, in this city, people said it's not the original Cavern. They boycotted the Cavern from 1966 onwards. They said it's not the Cavern anymore. It was a sanitised, safe venue all of a sudden. People didn't like that, and it meant that the Cavern's popularity dwindled in this city. So by 1973, they announced that they were going to demolish the Cavern Club. They were going to demolish the buildings on ground level. Nobody seemed to care. The Cavern Club moved in name only to the other side of the street. Right? It's now a venue called Eric's, okay? But it wasn't the Cavern in that venue anyway. It was only in name only for 3 years. Eventually in 1984, after they did demolish the buildings on ground level and filled the Cavern in full of rubble, they excavated the Cavern in 1984. So what you guys are going to see when you visit the Cavern is the Cavern Club built in the exact same location, okay? It's on 70% of its original footprint. It's built with 15,000 of its original bricks. But most importantly, the Cavern is still in the exact same location of number 10 Matthew Street, and it still attracts international artists of note to this very day. In essence, it's been shifted 90 degrees to the side. It's just slightly further underground. It's got ventilation, it's got fire exits, it's got a functioning bar, it's got toilets, it's even got Wi-Fi. It didn't have Wi-Fi in the original Cavern, I don't think. This is the pier heads, where you'll find the ferry across the Mersey, the statue of the Beatles, the LIPA building. This building on your left-hand side is Albion House. Okay? And Albion House used to be the headquarters of a little shipping company called the White Star Shipping Line. Have we heard of the White Star Shipping Line?
Yes.
They had a famous ship, didn't they? The Titanic. Have you all heard of the Titanic? Yeah, I thought so. Did we all see the film, The Titanic? Yeah, it was up for like 13 Oscars. I trust that we all watched it. Yeah. Well, do you remember at the end of the film, when the ship's sinking, they made a big deal? Sorry if that was a spoiler. At the end, when it was sinking, they zoomed in on the back of the ship, and it said Titanic, Liverpool. It was built in Belfast. Set sail from Southampton. I think they're out of order trying to blame us for that one. They put it in a film and everything. It's out of order. It was registered in that building. I'm only playing, obviously. It was the Titanic was a Liverpool registered ship. They came up with the idea for the Titanic in the 7-story bar of Albion House. It was the headquarters of the Titanic. Most of the crew came from the city of Liverpool. The band who famously went down playing with the ship was signed to a music agency here on Castle Street. Okay? This is where they signed their death warrants. But you wasn't expecting Titanic history today on a Beatles tour, were you? You weren't expecting. Guys, you've got Yellow Submarine in Ringo Land. You got Penny Lane on Penny Lane. You got Here Comes the Sun on Such a Beautiful Day. You got Let It Be driving away from McCartney's, and Mansion driving away from John Lennon's, and now you're getting Titanic history. You're getting it all today, aren't you? Living the dream. Oh, unbelievable, unbelievable. Lucky lot. Believe me, that was just the tip of the iceberg as well. Sorry, too soon. No, guys, what I want you all to do, if you don't mind, put your hands together with a round of applause for Dennis. He's on there. Thank you very much, Dennis. Thank you. In a few moments' time, Dennis will pass by the top end of Matthew Street, okay? When you look down Matthew Street, you will see the Cavern Pub. That's not where you're going, okay? Just to add some more confusion to the story. The Cavern Pub was opened up in the mid-1990s. You're looking for the Cavern Club halfway down the street on the right-hand side. If you want to know loads more details about the Cavern's history, I've written articles about the Cavern, and I've been on podcasts around the world talking about it. Dale Liverpool on Instagram. If you want to keep in touch personally, feel free to do so, and contact me if you ever need anything in the city. But look on your left-hand side, this is Matthew Street, an alleyway which changed the world. Halfway down on the right-hand side is where you'll find the Cavern Club. So all that's left for us to do is park the bus, and we're going to do so in the bus stop around the corner. So all that's left for me to say is, have you all enjoyed the Magical Mystery Tour? Yeah. guys. Guys, if you have enjoyed the Magical Mystery Tour, there are multiple ways in which you can show appreciation. The way in which it genuinely means the most to me is go away and tell your friends how beautiful Liverpool is, okay? If you can do it publicly, it really goes a long way. My name's Dale. Dennis has been your driver. Leave our names next to your 5-star reviews on the internet. If it's less than 5-star, don't bother. Thank you. Keep in touch with us. Thank you. They can give me another round of applause. I'm getting spoiled. I'm not used to this treatment. I normally get booed off. People throw me up. Guys, the way in which people traditionally and usually show appreciation on tour buses is we do have a tip bowl. It's a Beatles Liverpool tip bowl. Throw whatever you wish in there, and me and Dennis are obliged to split it in a moment's time. So we thank you in advance for whatever you wish to generously give. But guys, it's genuinely been a pleasure guiding to us. Enjoy your time in the Cavern Club. More than anything else, enjoy the rest of your time in sunny Liverpool. Thanks very much, everyone. Thank you.